Welcome to Red Alert, everyone. I'm your host, Ryan Paney, joined today by Dashefsky and Danny Barletta. Today we are talking about college football, where the landscape has changed after an intense rivalry weekend with teams like Michigan and Washington State coming up short. But while a lot did change, one thing remains. Alabama is the best team in the FBS. Alabama dominated Auburn in the Iron Bowl, blowing them out 52-21. They are undoubtedly the favorites to win it all, but as the saying goes, on any given day, anyone can beat anyone. With that being said, who do you guys think has the best chance to take out Bama?
I believe the only team that even has a slight chance is Clemson. Like right now, it looks like it's going to be a rematch of the 2017 national championship when Deshaun Watson and Clemson won. But this year is Alabama's year without a doubt. This Alabama team might be one of the greatest teams of all time, like greatest college football teams of all time. They've rolled over every single team they've played this year, including 3 ranked teams. Their closest game was against Texas A&M, and they still won by 22 points. They've outscored their opponents 588 to 165. Clemson's the only team that can give Alabama a go. They're also undefeated. They're in a weaker conference, though. They've outscored their opponents 548 to 165. So it's like pretty similar. But they've been in a lot more closer games where Bama's just completely wiped the floor with everyone. Clemson is great, but Alabama is unstoppable.
I think Danny touched on it well. Alabama is great, all-time great. But if I were to pick a team, I think it'd be Georgia. Right now they're ranked 5th, so there is some jostling that could be done in the playoffs. But I think they'll be selected in the end. And I think the experience in college football goes a long way. Kirby Smart is a great coach. I think that since I've seen them before in last year's championship, I think they pose the best threat for Alabama. I know Tua would destroy any team. So I think Georgia could game plan. They saw him last year in the second half of that game. Mm-hmm. Again, I think a lot comes down to experience. So I say Georgia would give them the best shot. I think a lot of these teams really don't have much, but I say Georgia would probably give them the best run for their money.
You guys bring up both really good teams, both the teams that complete. We see Oklahoma, they're a really good offense, terrible defense. Notre Dame, I mean, how strong is the schedule that's been this year? Exactly. But going off of that, with Alabama seemingly a lock heading into the SEC championship game, what other teams do you think could join them in the playoff?
Well, alongside Alabama being my number 1, I think Clemson is obviously the number 2, and then the 3 and 4 are a little tricky. Notre Dame is 12-0, but besides their win against Michigan, which we now see is a little overrated because they got throttled by Ohio State, I don't think their schedule is that great, but with no losses, I think you have to reward them with some kind of playoff position, so I think they should get in. And then there's a debate between Oklahoma and Ohio State. That's where I think Georgia should come into that play. They're going to be playing Alabama in their final game, but I think that shouldn't dictate where their playoff seed is because whether they lose to Alabama or not, they've had a really tough schedule. I think they deserve it a little bit more than Oklahoma, who I don't think is ready for that playoff position, or Ohio State. Oklahoma lost to Texas. They're going to be playing them again on Saturday. I think that's going to be a loss there. So we'll see, but I think those 4 would be the correct teams.
All right. Yeah, so for me, it's similar but different at the same time. I have obviously number 1 Alabama, number 2 Clemson. I think that's pretty set in stone. Mm-hmm. Number 3, I have Notre Dame because they're going to finish the season undefeated. Not the best schedule. They have that. They're unaffiliated in a conference, so they're not going to have that conference championship. But I still think undefeated is undefeated, especially they beat some good teams. But for number 4, I think it's going to be Oklahoma, who will finish 12-1 with the Big 12 title game. This is obviously assuming that Alabama beats Georgia, which I think they will. So you can make a case for Oklahoma to hop over Notre Dame to number 3, but I just don't see that happening because I think the committee takes undefeated very seriously. So Oklahoma should get into the playoff if they win on Saturday. I think they control their own destiny more than any other team. Mm-hmm. So I just don't see Ohio State, even with a win, making the playoff if Oklahoma wins.
See, I see the fate of all these teams relying on Alabama. If Bama chokes against Georgia in the SEC championship,
definitely.
The way their season's gone, I can't imagine them not making a playoff spot.
Yeah.
I don't foresee them being a 4 seed either. So I think Oklahoma, Ohio State really want Bama to win.
Right.
There's no way that committee doesn't reward them for their year.
Yeah, if Georgia loses and Oklahoma wins, I think Oklahoma hops over them to the 4 seed.
I agree there. even with your predictions, what dark horse scenarios do you see happening with the playoffs?
All right, so keep in mind this is a complete hypothetical that I don't personally will think happen. But if Georgia loses to Bama, Oklahoma loses to Texas, and Ohio State loses to Northwestern, there is a slim, tiny chance that number 7 in the AP poll, I don't know where they're going to be right now in college football ranking, but number 7 in the AP poll, UCF, could get in if they beat Memphis in the American Championship game. Now, that's not a guarantee anymore with the injury to Mackenzie Milton. So, like, that alone is uncertain. But even if all that happens, I still doubt it will happen because Georgia will have lost to Bama, and I don't think that's going to hurt them. So, like, they'll probably hold on to that 4 seed. But there is a case to be made for UCF to make the playoff as an undefeated team for 2 years now. That'll be a 25-game win streak, and I think that holds some water over any 2-loss team. Now I know they don't play anybody remotely difficult compared to like the SEC teams, but an undefeated team for 2 consecutive years, you could put them in, but obviously that would set them up to get absolutely demolished by Alabama first round. So it's kind of, but I think there is a case to be made for UCF. It probably won't happen. The committee hates Group of 5 teams, but
They do.
yeah. So, but we'll see.
Yeah, I can't lie. I really like Danny's idea. With the committee as unorganized and confusing with their selections for the playoffs, I think maybe in this kind of dream scenario, maybe they get in just on the circumstances of letting UCF get into the playoffs when they've had those 2 opportunities in the past 2 seasons fall through. I know a lot of fans that have been pushing for UCF after playing so well in their season, going 12-0 and not getting a playoff bid. I think it'd be a reward, especially if the way that these final games fall through. UCF making the playoffs, giving them an opportunity. Maybe they get demolished, but I think their bet is as good as any other teams against a team like Alabama or Clemson. So I say give them a shot. They're a dark horse team. Yeah. I wouldn't mind seeing them, but it's unlikely.
It'd be revolutionary. Yeah. You know, a Group of 5 team actually making the playoff, it'd be great. I'd love to see it.
They're the defending national champions. So come on. This team deserves a chance. I get Mackenzie Milton's injury is definitely going to dissuade the committee from picking them, but I'd love if everything, like you said, goes their way. That'd be sick if they could sneak in.
Definitely.
After the break, we'll end with the weekly whiteboard segment. Welcome back, and now for our whiteboard segment. This week we've chosen to do Championship Week Pick'em. I'll announce the matchup from the top 3 conference championship games, and you guys will write down who you think's going to win and give me a brief reason why.
All right, sounds good.
All right, first up, the Big 12 championship game, Texas versus Oklahoma. Let's see what you guys got. I'll go closest to me and then further away, so show the board. All right, Daniel?
I'm going with Texas. I think they got Oklahoma's number. They beat them in the regular season. I don't think Kyler Murray can put them on his back. As usual, I think that defense is suspect for Oklahoma. Texas is looking pretty good. Texas might be back, so hook 'em. We're going Texas.
Now, this is going to be a shootout, no doubt. But I have Oklahoma. Texas got the best of them last time, but I think Kyler Murray is going to make his case very clear for the Heisman in this game. It's going to be packed with offense. I have Oklahoma coming on top.
You see what Kyler tweeted about Sam Ehlinger? He's really looking forward to this matchup, and I think he's going to take advantage of it. So I'm with Danny here. Next up, the Big Ten chip game between number 21 Northwestern and number 6 Ohio State. All right. Go ahead.
I got Ohio State in this one. They're coming off an incredible win over Michigan. Gives them a lot of momentum. I expect this to be a pretty close game, though, like closer than people expect. Like I think they win, but by 7 points or less.
Yeah, Ohio State has a lot of momentum going for them, especially after that win against Michigan. They're looking hot. And I don't think Northwestern, especially with Ohio State playing the way they are, will cause them much of a problem. I got Ohio State in a fairly easy win.
All right. Last one. I think this is the best of all the championship games. The SEC chip game between number 1 Alabama and number 4 Georgia. If either of you pick the other, I gotta say. There we go. Show the boards. Right,
Best team in the world. End of story.
Yeah, Alabama obviously, but I still think Georgia has the best shot. They're playing them, so best of luck to Georgia, but Alabama's the best team in college football.
Yeah.
Big Tua guy. Big Tua guy, so I think Tua's going to destroy this team. That's all from us here on Red Alert. If you enjoyed our show, subscribe to our YouTube channel at UCTV Channel 14 to check out other cool videos. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at UCTV Channel 14 and at Twitter at UCTV Sports. For Daniel Dashefsky, Danny Barletta, and the entire crew, I'm Ryan Panny. We'll see you next time.